All right, jerk-offs, welcome back to our very first two-part episode featuring Scotland's Phil Nichol. Just kidding, he's definitely Canada's Phil Nichol. You can hear it in the calmness of his accent and the long life of his parents. Yeah, Scottish people don't live to 90. That's just not something that happens. I hope you guys enjoyed the first half, talking about, you know, going in between countries, the little back and forth immigration back in the day, which is not as easy as it is these days, overcoming a stutter, and then meeting the goddamn Queen with your parents. That's a pretty sweet deal. If you get to meet the Queen and you get to bring some guests and you pick your parents. I never like it when the athletes bring their mums to like the award ceremony, or like the celebrities bring their mums to the Oscars. But if you're having a little shindig in the Queen's house and your parents are British, that's a pretty sweet move. I love the fact that on the way to that, they felt the need to apologize to Phil for not supporting him, like things hadn't already worked out quite well for him. Anyway, I just wanted to say that. I want to dive straight into this episode as quick as possible. Two things. I just thought it'd be nice to... You're hearing this, that Phil actually played a role in starting one of London's, premier new material nights. One of the ones that's lasted the test of time and gathered a very loyal following and had a lot of crazy celebrity guests. Old Rope, he was responsible for starting that. And he's got a new one these days, every Tuesday at the Tap Room in Islington. It's called The Delivery Room, which is run with himself, Russell Hicks, and Sarah Callahan, all of whom are friends of mine. And the caliber of the lineups there is crazy. If you want to see some very successful comedians trying new stuff, that is the place to go. Beyond that, if you are a jerk-off loyal to me and want to see me, I'm at Leicester this weekend, the 10th of February at 5 p.m. at the Brewdog, doing the Leicester Comedy Festival. It is a new show called Nothing Personal. I don't know if that name is going to make it to Edinburgh, but we'll see. It's free entry, or you can reserve a ticket for £5. I don't really mind what you do. Just turn up, because it would be nice to say these horrible new ideas to a loving audience. That's it. Ladies and gentlemen, the second half. Let's crack on with Mr. Phil Nichol.
In fact, my life and my last show, You're Wrong, and my whole life has been dealing with trauma and these things through laughter and through comedy.
Yeah.
And I think there's more than enough studies done to prove that laughter just get more oxygen to the brain, for one, just to have so you're able to think more clearly after having a good laugh. But I think because of the recent comedy that's been made, it's almost like comedy's not good enough to solve these problems anymore. I think that's a mistake. I personally think that's a mistake. I feel it's a mistake, and I can only base it on my own experience, that I wouldn't be... My parents, even though they're these really clean-cut Christian people, still have a really wonderful sense of humor. They're Scottish and they love to laugh, but they will not let you make fun of someone who's in pain, or someone who's subjugated. They wouldn't. My parents don't. They're very empathetic to people, but they love to tease each other and they love to make fun of us.
Yeah.
So,
and that's like a nice thing. You know?
I think it's a release. I think it's good to release that tension.
Yeah, I think
it's why you laugh at funerals. I mean, it's a cliche, but
totally, and it takes the edge off the thing. It doesn't disrespect the dead person.
Yeah,
you're still at the funeral. You're sad they're there. The reason you're making the joke is because you know how sad you are.
I hope you laugh at my funeral, mate.
I mean, so do I.
But
Depends who's emceeing. We'll see.
Exactly, yeah. That's it. Hopefully, ideally, it would be Kerry Marks.
Kerry Marks?
Yeah.
Your boy?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Funniest human being I've met.
Dude, one of the...
although I have to say, because there's people are going to hear this and
sure.
Go, I thought I was. But
yeah.
I was in a group called Corky and the Juice Pigs for years, and my friend Greg Neal, and that is one of the funniest. But he's really, really, really empathetic. In fact, he sums up the thing we're talking about. He works as a psychologist with with kids that were in juveniles and stuff. And he lives in Australia. He lives in Castlemaine.
Oh.
He works with works with some heavy duty tortured and traumatized people. He's got the most twisted sense of humor.
Yeah.
He's got the most lovely twisted sense of humor. I think the more twisted your sense of humor, the more loving and
the more empathy you got.
Yeah, and I think you're more able to negotiate people's pain.
Yeah. That's
yeah.
interesting. It's interesting that he's out of the comedy because, we should get onto Corky the Juice Pigs. We should get in there.
Okay.
We should get in.
Corky and the Juice Pigs?
Corky and the Juice Pigs.
We did well in Australia.
We did pretty well.
Do a lot of Australians listen to this podcast?
Mainly UK people at the moment. I'm hoping to get more Australian people.
Well, we did in the UK. We did our first one of our first gigs in England, not Scotland because that was Edinburgh. But our first gigs in England was on Jonathan Ross's Last Resort on TV.
Oh, wow.
And the comedy booker was Malcolm Hardy, the infamous Malcolm Hardy.
The very famous Malcolm Hardy.
Yeah, but he was actually the comedy booker for that TV show.
For anyone who doesn't know Malcolm Hardy, he used to be the resident compere at Up the Creek.
Up the Creek and the Tunnel Club before that.
Yeah, and basically kind of any kind of off-the-wall, insane comedy owes a lot to this man.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, almost anything. He championed odd and unusual.
Yeah,
he didn't want it to be the same. You wouldn't be allowed to be boring in his club.
Well, I heard a tale that once a guy fell asleep in the front row.
Yeah,
and he pissed on it.
Yeah,
and
possibly
everyone loved it.
Possibly,
it was like wasn't even like
I don't
a weird
even
thing.
think that's like a one-off thing. I think like remember that night? One of his things. Don't fall asleep in front of Malcolm Hardy.
Yeah, he'll piss on you.
Yeah.
But yeah,
there's so many stories. He's got a book called I think it's called I Stole Freddie Mercury's Birthday Cake.
That story
which is worth reading for anyone, not just comedians, as a book of all the stories of things he did.
Well, look, we'll put that.
There was a car chase in Greenwich where the car came around the corner and the police came after him, and the police hit the curb and the car flipped over, and he walked up to the police car, knocked on the window and said, "Excuse me, sir, is this your car?" He was Malcolm Hardy. He was one of a kind. So yeah, the Juice Pigs. He championed us.
Right, in this country. But what about in the States? I want to talk a little bit stateside. Is this after?
No, that was before. We actually came from Canada, we crashed the Melbourne Comedy Festival, the third annual Melbourne Comedy Festival.
Yeah.
So this is like way back in the day.
Yeah. I think it's like pre-Susan
Proven. It was like a
25 years of Melbourne Comedy.
1990.
1990. Yeah, shit. It must be 30 years of the comedy festival. So there you go.
So we and then Karen Corrin, who runs the Gilded Balloon, heard about us there and invited us to come to Edinburgh. She thought we were Australian when we arrived. She went, "I thought you were Australian." Finger on the pulse, Karen.
That's it.
But she got us on there, and that took off. The whole thing took off for us. Malcolm Hardy saw it there, and then. But then many years later, we went to the States and we crashed the Montreal Comedy Festival because we were like kind of these punk. We were like, we saw comedy as punk.
Right.
We saw comedy as let's break the rules. Our songs we had songs like I Want to Join the Ku Klux Klan, Burn Victim Girl. And we were kind of like, if you're Australian, the Doug Anthony All-Stars, we kind of got to Australia and I know Paula loved this, but we blew them out of the water. they couldn't follow us.
Yeah.
And although we do love those guys, but similarly, I think we just arrived two continents on different sides of the world.
Yeah, comedy bands.
You got these trios out of nowhere that we used to push the boundaries and make people, the fear factor, the I don't know if you would get away with it quite the same anymore.
Yeah. So what do you mean by crash? Like, as in were you like not invited to the festival?
Yeah, we noticed that Montreal Comedy Festival was on, so we built a banner in our backyard.
Yeah.
I figured out a way of using plumbing pipe so that it would screw together. So we practiced putting it up so we could get up in about a minute.
Yeah.
It was on canvas. We'd throw it up.
Yeah.
So we went to the street we took our van, went to the street of Montreal.
Yeah.
threw it up in the street. Like in Montreal, you have to be programmed. It's a curated festival.
Yeah.
And they had stages at the corners of the street.
And very heavily curated, more so than probably any
Oh,
festival
very heavily curated.
in the world.
We threw our banner up, started singing.
Yeah.
Within 10 minutes, there was a crowd of about 200 people around us. The security came to try to stop us, and the crowd gathered around us and wouldn't let security. So the guy the head of security guy went and went off, and they came back with Bruce Hills. I think it was Bruce. It might have not actually been Bruce Hills, but he came back with passes for us. And the woman who was booking the outside stage is going, look, you can only perform during these times because that's when there's nothing else on the other stages.
Right.
So they let us stay and perform the rest of the weekend.
Awesome. Yeah.
And then the next year we were invited back and did the gala.
That's sick.
So yeah,
That's so funny. You guys just proper doing it punk. Oh man.
Yeah, doing a proper punk. Yeah. We just showed up in Australia at the Melbourne Comedy Festival. We flew to Melbourne. We got flights. We had a contact in Sydney who was he was a guy that did bands like Weddings, Parties, Anything. He was a manager for Weddings, Parties, Anything.
Yeah.
Paul Thomas from that band became our road manager. We arrived in Melbourne. We convinced the Prince Pat, which at the time was not a huge venue. It had who played Joe Mengele in Neighbours.
I got nothing.
He's a famous Australian comedian. This is going to embarrass me now.
No,
Mark Little. Mark Little was a huge star at the time.
Yeah.
Was selling out the Prince Pat, but it was off the beaten track because at that point the festival, the Melbourne Comedy Festival, it wasn't even in the town hall. I don't think at that point.
Yeah.
So we rocked up, got on to support Mark Little. After the second night, because our shows used to be 2.5 hours long. We just would rampage.
Oh wow!
So we did our hour. But Mark Little, his audience, totally packed Prince Pat. After the second night, he went, we'll change it around. I'll go on first. Because he's drawing the crowd. Audience. You guys go on second. You can do as long as you want. And we were doing these 2-hour-long shows.
Wow.
And by the end of that run, we were asked to be on The Big Gig.
The Big Gig?
The Big Gig.
That sounds like a Australian TV show.
Australian TV show.
Yeah.
Had regular...
You can just tell an Australian TV show by the title. The Big Gig. Skid House.
Live thing. The Doug and All-Stars had become successful enough. They were only on every third show.
Right.
So Ted Robertson saw the Juice Pigs and went, well, we'll just use them.
Yeah.
So he tried to get us on the show. There was a huge furor amongst the Australian comedians because people, I won't name names, but some of the older comedians who you will know, who are now the gods of Australian comedy, were furious that we were being put on when they had been trying hard to get on.
For years,
So there was a big meeting that we weren't allowed to go to where they decided to let us on once and he wanted us on all 6 episodes, on the 6 episodes.
So they gave you one
So I
shot.
stayed in Australia.
Yeah.
And in that time got engaged and...
that was on your first visit to Australia?
That was our second visit to Australia.
Second visit. Met this lady, got engaged.
Stayed longer to be on the show, and we're on the show with Scared Weird Little Guys. No, it was Scared Weird Little Guys. They weren't on it yet. That was the Umbilical Brothers and Lano and Woodley.
Lano and Woodley?
Who were the Found Objects. I think they might have still been the Found Objects at that point.
Interesting.
They were a trio.
This is some proper...
So I go way back.
You do go way back.
Way back.
Way back.
I don't really talk about that often because it seems like that was my first comedy career when that broke up.
The band. This is the second chapter on the website if you want to follow the website.
Yeah.
Now in the third chapter.
Corky and the Juice Pigs, yeah.
Yeah, and now third chapter we're talking the solo stuff. But you went to LA.
Well, Corky and the Juice Pigs, we ended up going to LA.
MadTV.
We were on development deals with Disney.
Right.
Auditioned at the peak of my success. Auditioned for Steven Spielberg.
Wow.
We were seen as a trio, and Disney was trying to find a project that we could do as a trio. So they had us. They had There was one that the guys from the Monkees had written. Mickey Dolenz had written about two guys that live above a pizza shop that wrote jingles, and they changed it to 3 guys. They had a movie called the Astronauts, which they was
Astronauts?
about two guys that get stuck in a two Dumb and Dumber, who they get stuck in a rocket with a monkey and go to the moon, but then was made into Rocket Man with Harland Williams. They rewrote it as three people.
Yeah.
And the ghostly trio in Casper the Friendly Ghost, the live action animated crossover. Right when that was still kind of cool.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
If you look at the ghostly trio, they kind of look like us.
Right.
We didn't get that part.
That's
a Steven Spielberg film.
Really?
Yeah.
You got the audition for Steven Spielberg?
Yeah.
Like in the room?
We did
same room as the Berg?
We did 3 years. No, he wasn't in the room. We never got to actually shake hands.
Damn it. Yeah.
No.
It's always the worst.
No, but that was for him.
Yeah, still amazing.
He
still watched you.
We did a screen test. Yeah, we did a couple of screen tests for it.
Yeah. So three
we were
years.
very close, but the thing is, we were young and stupid and arrogant.
Yeah.
Really arrogant, like a lot of young comedians. Our first flush of success had happened like after 2 years. We were on the Dudley Moore Comedy Club special. So 4 years later, we're suddenly in Disney.
But like
driving around in a gold. If I remember correctly, there was they had a convertible Cadillac and a driver they'd given us because none of us really drove.
Yeah.
And I'd like suddenly slicking my hair back, wearing aviators. I was.
You went LA with it. That's all right.
I know.
How old?
I was a horrible mess.
How old were you?
25.
Yeah, exactly. You're 25, as if you're going to handle that well.
Yeah.
Come on, 25, that kind of success?
Going in to meet the head of comedy, head of comedy in the Disney building every week to discuss what the new project was going to be.
Oh, man.
Being told we were going to be the next big thing. And then we ended up on MadTV because a friend of ours, Brian Hart, who was one of the executive producers of MadTV, was one of the head writers for The Kids in the Hall and the original Jon Stewart show.
Yeah.
He, got this job with Mad, which was a huge production at the time because it was
had a huge cast
going up against Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, they put so many people through MadTV.
Absolutely,
that was like Artie Lang, wasn't it?
Yeah, Will Sasso.
Yeah. Oh man.
So if you to get on that, we did a season and a half, and that's when that experience broke the group up. Thinking we were believing the hype, basically. Right. And I could do a course on this, and I watch it. I watch it happen again and again and again because I see all these kids, good comedians, really nice people backstage. Get stuff on the Apollo, and they get twisted, and they start, and then the kids that don't get on the shows get really twisted and get bitter. And around the 12-year mark, between the 8 and 12-year mark, I can guarantee you there's comedians that start to separate at 8-year mark. Yeah. Some of their friends start to make it, and some of them get really twisted and bitter. And I think you have to avoid it.
Yeah.
And remember why you did it in the first place, because success. You can either see me as a massive failure or a huge success, but I've only ever done comedy and worked as an actor, so I have to convince myself it's success. I have convinced myself it's success, but then I can also look and go, well, I'm never going to be on QI. But
I think that's okay.
Yeah, I think it's okay.
I mean, like from where I'm sitting, it's a success. Just
sure.
As a young comedian looking at it.
I don't have as much of a stutter.
I mean, yeah, you got through the speech impediment thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Can you imagine?
Well, a little bit,
still there. But you've done so many different things. But the one thing just before we get out of LA, how did you find LA? Like you were like. You're in the position to have prime LA, right? You know, like LA, it's like a lot of people struggling. Yeah. You're the next big thing guy in LA.
Yeah.
And you're on TV.
Yeah.
Was it great? Was it terrible? I mean, it obviously broke the group up.
Broke the group up.
Was it fun?
It broke the group up. We lost I lost my marriage and Greg lost his marriage.
Jesus.
And he had a 10-month-old son. My wife left me on a Saturday. His wife left him on a Monday of the same weekend. And they didn't, not like they planned. They didn't speak to each other. They just did it.
They were there with you. You
success. Just short that near success, that MadTV success.
Yeah.
In fact, it's probably looking back. If I'm being reasonable, it's lucky that we didn't. We were offered another season, and the group broke up, and Sean Cullen had decided he wanted to move on and do some other stuff. That broke the group up. It's a horrible story, so I don't want to get into it. But it was acrimony and heartache, and then our wives left us, and then the group broke up. So in the space of about 2 months, I lost my wife, my two closest friends, and then the two guys in the group and the two managers who are also our friends from. So I lost about 7 closest people in my life.
Jesus, and your job, I guess, as well.
And I moved to England on the behest of an agent, a friend of mine, my now agent, who said you could if you could scrape together like I can get some, and I started doing open spots. Well, Noel Faulkner gave me a gig at the Comedy Caf.
Yeah.
And the support act was Ed Byrne, and I went on and died miserably to the point where he paid me for the next weekend and told me not to come back.
Oh, that's your intro to London.
Yeah,
that's your start.
Welcome to London.
Because you'd never lived in London yet, right? This is all Canada, then LA.
Kind of had been coming back and forth to do
shows,
to do the festival and do shows.
Yeah,
we were working in the UK about 3 months of the year and touring nationally.
Yeah. Okay. Well, no, just because this. Yeah.
Is this like, in any way interesting?
Dude,
I mean, I don't know.
I'm captivated. Like
I've done a lot.
Yeah, I mean,
Ed Byrne was our we needed a tour, a support act for our tour.
Yeah,
because there was 3 of us, we weren't making a lot of money. Like it's hard to tour it.
Because you got to split everything.
You got to split it 3 ways and pay for 3 hotels. Blah, blah, blah. A lot of time we stayed in the same hotel room. Ed Byrne was I've been doing comedy, and he will correct me, but if I'm wrong, but about 6 months or so, he was phenomenal from the minute he started. He just is. He's the guy, just natural.
He just gets it.
Yeah, he was getting it. So we took him on tour, gave him £50 but a show, which actually nowadays it's what it's ridiculous. There's actually a low amount for what we wanted to pay him, but we gave him like I don't know how many dates there were. Like if I'm making up 30 to 60 dates.
Sure.
They toured all through UK, and he did all those, and he became such a better comedian just hanging out with us. But he was already phenomenal. I don't want to make it sound
he's just one of those guys who had it.
But just by being around us, I think he kind of went, "Oh my God, this is what I want to do." And he was in a class with David Haddingham and Adam Bloom and Brendan Burns, they were, and Andrew Maxwell, they were all mates.
Oh,
so
okay.
that's so you think about it. That was the end of my first comedy career,
and that was
the beginning of their comedy.
And
career,
those guys have been going around.
They're seen as the daddies of.
Well, that's the thing. I just had Adam Bloom on this thing, and I was like, man, you've been doing comedy a long time. And you're like, that was your second phase.
We took him on tour. Ed couldn't do a couple of dates, and we took Adam on tour with us. Yeah.
Well, the one thing I was going to say about the move to London, this is like I found this because obviously this podcast we talk a lot about coming to the UK. We haven't even got there yet because you've done so much, but you're the only person that I've ever heard get like at a low point you came to London. Most people, it's kind of like everything's going really well. Go to London, give it a go.
Yeah.
In this like scary, gloomy city. Whereas you're just like, my marriage is just over. Just lost my job. Just lost some of my best friends.
Yeah, miserable.
I'm going to go to London. I'm going to go to the place that makes happy people miserable.
Yeah.
I found that incredible. I was like, man, that is ballsy.
Yeah.
And this is one agent just believed in you.
Well, I'd been living on her couch off and on in different places. We became friends in Edinburgh. So when I came to tour with the Juice Pigs, we each had a different place we would stay.
Right.
In London,
just to save money,
and I was always welcome to stay with her wherever they were, and I lived with a guy called Donald and another friend of mine, Matt, who we knew his nickname was Mindless Drug Hoover. Not nickname, he was a musician called Mindless Drug Hoover, and I would DOS with them.
Yeah,
I would DOS with them. So when she saw what I was going through, she felt sorry for me, invited me to come and to stay and get away from Toronto, because that's where my ex-wife was Australian and had moved. So she'd given up a lot. She'd given up she had an acting career. She moved to Toronto, and then when she moved to Toronto, I suddenly was off in LA, and I think it just took its toll. Yeah. I've talked about it in a show called The Weary Land. One of the original members of the Juice Pigs, there's me, Sean Cullen, and Greg Neal, but one of the original member was Joe Costa.
Yeah.
And after about 2 years, our careers took off. When it was Joe Costa, we were on the Dudley Moore Comedy Club special on the ABC in America.
Yeah,
not
sure.
Australia.
That was like a big,
and it was a huge TV show.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd like to go back and see who was on it, but like Dave Chappelle, it was like. Our first year in Montreal, Dave Chappelle and Adam Sandler and I'm trying to think of they supported us.
Wow.
our support act. That was the way. That's
Yeah.
This is before Adam Sandler even played music. He saw. I think and I don't care what he thinks of me now, but Adam Sandler saw us.
Yeah.
And the next year came back with a guitar and wrote Little Chicken Song.
Get the hell out of here.
I think I don't know if he'd ever admit that we influenced him, but
Yeah.
that's right. So that's where we were at. So I think Joe had left the group after he said, this is a true story, verbatim. I said, well, I mean, why are you quitting the group? And he said, well, I don't like all the travel.
Yeah.
And I said, so what are you gonna do? He went, I don't like all the touring.
Yeah.
I said, what are you doing? He said, I'm gonna travel, right? Because we'd been across Canada in a van like a couple of times, and it's just grueling.
It is, yeah.
Especially when you're starting. We our first trip across Canada, we had the first one with Greg is we didn't have any money. We buy a box of cereal each, and we hang on a styrofoam cup and eat cereal out of a cup with milk in the van. That's how we would. Right. That's all we could really afford.
Yeah,
that's what got it. Especially
when there's three of you, because everything splits and everything split. Every accommodation.
If we were lucky, we get chicken wings at the club. We really struggled.
Yeah,
to make a living.
I think a lot of people don't get the poverty of touring.
It was horrible.
Like
we were in a van that broke down regularly. We were touring Western Canada, like in minus 50-degree weather, coming from Ontario, not realizing that it was going to be that cold. We had like jean jackets on and no hat. We had to go and buy hats, which we couldn't afford. So we'd go to the Goodwill to buy gloves that were too big.
Oh man,
etc.
This is great.
So that's what we were doing. So Joe quit.
Yeah.
And Greg, instead of breaking the group up, because we thought we were doing pretty well, Greg joined and 2 days later did his first gig with us.
Wow.
And he was a multi-instrumentalist and was writing his own songs. So we actually gained something from that. Yeah. Because Joe was a personality, but was never that creative.
Yeah, sure.
So we gained from that. And I suddenly became the straight man. Joe was the straight man.
Right.
He used to smoke a cigar on stage. He was very attractive.
You were the straight man?
I became the straight man in the Juice Pigs. I played the guitar. I was the one to do all the intros.
Drawing on this theater training.
Yes, my voice, yeah. So that's what happened. We suddenly, when our career took off, I wasn't there. I wasn't available for my ex. Joe had gone away and worked for Teach for America, which is a program where he teach in extreme urban environments. Yeah. So he'd come back with no money, and he's still one of my close friends at that point. So I said, look, I've got a room in my house. I'll lend you some money. I got him some clothes. I got him a job, helped him get a job.
Yeah.
And I gave him the pig, and he wanted the hog.
What I guess.
So he ended up having anyway. That's a
relationship with you.
My relationship with my wife broke up over two of my friends having sexual relations with her. But to be honest, her and I have reacquainted our friends, and I'd feel bad if she heard this without me saying. I have to take 50% of the blame for that. Sure. Because what happened was I was coming back from LA to Joe in the house with money, being successful in the group he quit, and not even realizing, off my face on drugs, not letting anyone else buy a drink. No, I'll get these. Yeah. Going to the bar where he worked and buying like everyone at the bar a shot of tequila. Yeah. Constantly picking up the bill. There'd be like 12 of us at a table. I go, I'll get that, thinking I was going to be the next big thing. And I think he really resented it for me. She must have resented that I was away all the time. And it happens. And I have to take 50% of that.
Yeah.
I didn't think that at the time, but I caused that.
Yeah,
I pushed them together.
You weren't living
I wasn't thinking. I was so arrogant. I thought, well, that would never happen to me.
Yeah,
and it did. And it's happened again since then as well. In the last few years.
Joe again?
No. Another comedian friend of mine.
Oh God!
Ran off with my girlfriend of 4 years.
Oh man,
he's still out there though, and I won't say his name.
You won't say? Okay.
Can't say his name.
Were you buying drinks then as well, or was that a different game?
No, I was still being equally generous, as I still maintain.
A generous man.
I think generosity is an underrated.
Agreed.
An underrated thing.
100%.
I think, in fact, through generosity, I'm sitting here with you.
That's true.
Generosity of people's couches, generosity of people feeding us, comedians.
Yeah.
Comedians live off the generosity of others, for sure.
Dude, it's crazy.
I'm only giving it back.
A little bit in podcast form.
Time is all you have to give someone. Your time. So if you've listened to this whole podcast, thank you for giving us your time.
Well, look, I'm sorry, it can't be the whole podcast unless you got somewhere to be. Do you have
No,
somewhere to be?
not at all.
Great. I refuse. There's so much more.
Okay.
I've never had someone on who's got so much.
All
Like
right.
genuinely, I'm just like, I've got stuff here, and I'm like, I need to talk about this. I can't even, because you're in London now, solo.
So yeah,
So you've lost the safety net of the band.
doing open spots.
Doing open spots as the guy who was supposed to be the next big thing.
Well,
Occupies on drugs,
we used to headline.
drinks for the bar.
Well, we headlined the Comedy Store for years as Corky the Juice
Yeah.
when it used to be the old Comedy Store in Storm. Not the very original one, but the second one.
Yeah.
Ripping the roof off that.
Yeah.
You know, when in the years of Jack D, Mark Lamar, Lee Evans, we
Sure.
were like an unstoppable act. There wasn't anyone that wanted to go on after the three of us. I mean, you know, there was three people, so it does the energy and the volume of our act. But we had a very powerful act.
Well,
we had a very quick, fast.
well, you might
furious.
be aware of this, you might not be, but as someone who's like entered the UK scene recently, the perception of Phil Nichol is you don't want to follow Phil Nichol.
All right, well, that's quite nice.
You don't.
I've had to
Everyone's
go-
just been like, that's anyone but him.
I've had to go back up after. I've had to go back. I think it's the energy thing is from the Juice Pigs. The trick I learned there is that you can really like blast energy into a room. You get the crowd up. It's a thing they use in street performing. It's called a hype.
Yeah.
You know, street performers sometimes only have 2 or 3 really good tricks, but it takes them an hour to get to it. But they hype the audience.
Yeah.
And it's you put energy into them, and you make them excited, and you get them excitable, and then you can get away with really shit jokes.
Well, that's not what anyone has said. They've just said they don't want to follow you.
Yeah,
They've been like,
yeah.
it's a fucking energy
Mike
boy.
Wilmot calls my guitar the cheat stick. So,
The cheat stick. Well, that's
so it
something
depends
that-
how you see it.
That's exactly what Mike Wilmot would say.
I wouldn't want to follow Mike Wilmot though. He's another unfollowable.
He's no tricks, baby. No tricks.
Rich Hall, unfollowable.
But
There are people I just don't. I find really hard to follow.
I've seen Russell Kane live. That's a
yeah.
fucking lot of energy as well.
Yeah.
You're like, oof.
Russell Kane. When I met Russell Kane, he was doing an open spot.
Yeah.
And the bill was Adam Bloom, and then he was the open spot, and then me.
Oof.
And Russell Kane, who was bald at the time, came up and went, I've been told I'm a bit like you and a bit like you. And I just went, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. And Adam Bloom went, what do you mean by that?
Bloom immediately on the back foot.
But you imagine that Russell Kane is a bit like a cross between Adam Bloom and me.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That'd be an exhausting show to see.
Yeah.
As an audience member, you'd walk away
Yeah.
being like, fuck, there's nothing
He was
left.
good too. Russell Kane was always very good.
Always
I
had
mean, you know,
moves.
it's all subjective as well because there's people that I can name any comedian that you'll find someone listening to the podcast. Fuck
Of course.
fuck them. But I don't, because of my experience, I don't judge you on your act.
Yeah.
I don't like when the Juice Pigs started. We were at the Yuck Yucks Toronto for the first 11 months. Some of the older the A list they called them the double A headliners.
Yeah.
We suddenly went from we did 3 open spots at the club. By the second open spot, we were the headline open spot on the new material night, and by the 4th one, Mark Breslin brought us into his office and gave us a feature, like headline. So
Yeah.
we went from open spot to headline. There was no middling. Open spot,
Yeah.
spot. 4 nights of open spot,
And then
headline.
bang.
So you imagine how
The resentment.
furious, the
Oh, yeah.
resentment amongst, especially the middles who've been working hard to get. But the headliners used to pick on us and make fun of us, and try to hurt our. But because we were unshakable, and because there were 3 of us, they were stepping on a landmine. If they picked on one of us, they got it from 3 sides. So people just left us alone.
Yeah.
But I've learned. When I see young people, young kids, or any open spot, I only want them to do well.
Yeah.
And I only want them to be super successful, and I only ever have done that. And hopefully that gets remembered. It doesn't always, though. I mean, there's been loads of comedians who've been successful that wouldn't give me the time of day. But that's, you know, it's a subjective. And
I was actually going to ask, just like on the kind of London side, because with the London, obviously, Phil Nichol has grown into the Phil Nichol no one wants to follow.
yeah,
Headline, like best club comic, all that, you know?
I guess so.
Very acclaimed festival shows as well.
I guess so. I don't know.
most-
I don't know what that means, to be honest.
The
But
most hours I've ever heard of anyone doing during an Edinburgh Fringe.
yeah,
Like
22.
fucking insane. But no,
None of them good.
The thing that I was going
Still on the Daniel Muggleton podcast.
Hey, still.
Sorry, that was a slapping for both of us.
I know.
I slapped you and me.
I felt that. That's the kind of joke I would
slapped
make.
myself, and in turn,
it's like
I didn't mean that.
It's like I'm taking us both down.
This could be the thing that cracks both of us, man. This could be the one.
This is it, baby. This is going to take us to the top.
Run Retreat by Mark Maron, and we're on.
We're on. It's just like, man, what a great interview. But no, the resentment thing, I was interested in this because you do a lot of theatre.
Yeah.
By my count, you're an actor. You've toured in dancing as well.
I did a dance. I was part of
dancing.
I did have a contemporary dance theatre company. Yeah.
You toured as a
and
legitimate...
Tony Law and I have a dance duo called Night Danger.
Night Danger, good name as always.
Which if you ever get a chance to catch Night Danger, it really has to be seen to be believed.
All right. Well, look, I'll keep an eye out for Night Danger. Toured as a legitimate musician.
Yeah, I played the North by Northwest Festival in Toronto with a group called Feeble, which originally had a member of the Bare Naked Ladies, Kevin Hearn, in it.
And you can sing
I've
because
got,
you do musicals?
I've got an album. I've got an album called Ethel's Little Ditties, which is available on
Is your mother's name
iTunes.
Ethel?
Yep.
Nice. I like that.
It sounds a bit creepy though, because some point it sounds like Ethel's Little Titties, but
Little ditties, come on.
That was
Scottish.
The joke. That was kind of the joke.
Oh, the joke.
No, I tell you what it is the comedian who I was on, who I will not name, once said to me, "Oh yeah, you're just going to play some of your little ditties," and I was like, "All right, well, I'm just going to put out a whole album of my little ditties."
Of the little ditties.
I was hoping that album would be successful, so he had to live with that, but it wasn't.
Well, look,
but it's good. It's good.
It's out there, though.
You know what the best critique I had of Ethel's Little Ditties is Andre Vincent, who is a bit of a muso. Sent me a message saying he really liked it. He listened to it in the car and he went, it's actually quite good, which for him, which for Andre is a compliment.
What a powerful compliment.
Yeah.
That's a classic kind of man-to-man compliment. It's actually pretty good. You're actually kind of funny.
I didn't believe this could actually be quite good. Yeah.
But wait, and comedy bands.
I got a comedy album called Late Night Electric Watermelon, which I'm kind of embarrassed by now because
a lot of good names.
Some of the songs on it have the word midget in it.
Okay.
But I've checked with my little people friends. It's all cool.
And they're chill.
But it's pre Watershed. I don't know what no, before you couldn't say the word. Before you couldn't say it. Of course you can say it. It's not very polite.
Yes, it's impolite to say it. But no, that's like
comedy shouldn't necessarily be polite though. So
no. But I mean,
I find polite comedy a little bit hard to accept.
I'm okay with polite. I respect anyone who works clean. Like I respect as a thing, but I just would never put it on myself.
No,
because I swear all the time. Yeah. I mean, I've actually not sworn very much in this because I think I've been too interested.
Yeah,
to swear.
I think I swear way more on stage as Phil Nichol. You know.
Yeah.
I want to say the character Phil Nichol. That sounds so Austin. So
nice.
The character. Well, it's not character.
Yeah. Well, I want to get into this a little bit because I always like to keep this thing a little bit away from comedy and talk about the life stuff, which we have.
Okay.
I think we've done quite good. But no, just the...
I've also got a rock band called Muscle.
Muscle.
Which we've got a full album recorded, but we couldn't... Muscle kind of fell apart a bit because the band members... The bass player punched one of the producers in the face and knocked his teeth out.
Why?
Because it's rock and roll, man.
Oh, jeez.
AC/DC got nothing on us, man.
I don't...
Akadaka?
Akadaka. AC Lightning Bolt DC.
Yeah.
But no, it's just
I probably shouldn't have said that because that sounds scandalous.
I like the scandal. It might have been a scandal.
It happened. Yeah. It happened. So kind of at that point, we kind of stopped. Everyone stepped back and went, ooh, maybe we want to take a break from this.
Mm.
But that was Muscle.
I want to go to the theatre.
The rock band.
Theatre. Let's talk theatre. Can you talk theatre? Do you want to talk theatre with a piece of shit comedian? Is that...
Yeah, I trained as an actor.
You trained as an actor and you also perform regularly in stage productions?
Yes, I run a theatre company called the Comedians Theatre Company with Maggie Ainshley,
right?
Who is a director who I met through Alan Francis, who's a comedian.
Right.
And we had this idea. I'd been in a couple of productions at that point in 12 Angry Men, which was a bunch of comedians, and one for the Cuckoo's Nest, which had comedians around Christian Slater and Francis Barber.
Yeah.
And the next year they were doing The Odd Couple, and I wasn't asked to be in it. And I was like, hang on a minute, I wasn't asked to be in it. And I was kind of so I thought, well, I'll just do my own.
Right.
So I started the Comedians Theatre Company, and I thought I did one with Maggie, called Zoo Story, and that's where that started. We had a conversation with her coming back from the National Theatre. We'd watched Buried Child, and with a group of people from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Maggie was with us, and she said, "I said, well, we could do our own." So I did, and then someone dropped out of that production of The Odd Couple, and I ended up being in The Odd Couple as well. But at that point, I realized it's the idea of having comedians in works of theatre not only suits me because I became reacquainted with my love of acting, or how much. I mean, my love of acting it's actually what I'd rather be doing. If I had a choice
between acting and comedy,
well, stage acting.
I
never
not film acting.
Because the way I was raised, I wasn't allowed to listen to secular music or watch. I mean, we did as teenagers a bit, but I don't really remember that. I know that my parents were dead hard set against TV and film, so I didn't.
Not exposed to it, so you can't aspire to it.
No, I like theater. It was the Nicholas Pennell aerial drop
down,
it's
silencing the room.
I think theater. I know. I'm sure. I'm not a great television or film actor. I'm not even a great theater actor, but I just prefer the long form. Yeah. I prefer being in a piece where I have to be in that character for the whole time.
And there's a response from the crowd, which I guess you'd be used to, and all that stuff you can.
Yeah. And I do little bits of TV here and there, but I don't feel that same kind of. I don't get the same kind of thrill out of it. They're nice jobs.
Yeah.
They raise your profile, but they're not. Stage acting is really virtually impossible to make a living at.
Yeah.
Unless you're extraordinarily talented and supplementing it with film acting.
Other stuff. Yeah. Well, I was going to say, as a I guess comedian / I feel like you're doing a lot of both. Do you get resentment from actors for doing comedy? Do they kind of look down on it the same way the old school headliners would look down on the musical act?
You know what?
Because I just don't know that well.
Some do. It's funny. I did a workshop recently with Tony Kersner, who's quite famous. He's very famous, Academy Award famous, and it was at the National Theatre. And it was all actors. I mean, really great actors. I mean, fucking amazing actors. And I couldn't believe I was sitting there. And I knew the director, and I think Jeremy and I went way back. And I was like, oh my God, I was a little bit really intimidated by it. Well, I did my best. I had to play 3. It was a reading of a new script, and it was a workshop. And I felt like when I said to them, I'm a stand-up comedian, they're like, oh, wow. Like actors like, oh my God, I can't imagine doing that. Like, yeah. And I'm like, but you've been on, like, you've played, Petruchio at the Globe Theatre. I mean, that's, for me, it's like, that would be an amazing accomplishment. And then I kind of got the feeling as the thing went on that I don't know if I wasn't doing a good job. Like, I did the best job I could. But I just got the feeling that there's a little bit like, oh, right, this guy's just a comedian. No. And I felt that. I don't know if it's true, but I don't know if it was my paranoia projecting that. But I felt it. Like I kept looking at Tony, thinking, I want to get this so right for him. Like I really want. And not only do I want to get it right for him, I'm at the National Theatre. There's the casting department's there. Yeah. I just want to.
There's a professional element.
Well, as a professional, it's an opportunity for me to go. I really want to be doing work at that level. Because it's hard to do children's theater for the rest of your life. And I didn't want to do it because I did some children's theater when So I wanted to, my goal would be to do, a great character, one of the great Shakespearean characters at the Globe Theatre at the RSC.
That'd be
one of my,
because
one of my goals.
You've done like West End stuff.
I've done a couple of West End shows,
Yeah, like very successful. Everyone's talking about Jamie.
Everybody's talking about Jamie. Yeah. It just was the last thing I did,
Yeah, like, so you've done like a lot. Like, it's not like you're not accomplished as an actor.
Yeah, but you still want that Shakespeare something about the National Theatre in the UK. There's something about,
Well, it's just...
I would like to, basically, it's the same as in comedy. I feel like I'm sort of a new act.
Sure.
For acting, so I've got to just accept that, and I'm a bit older, but I feel like I've got all this wealth of experience doing comedy that helps me be a better actor. I think actors are better when they learn other skills.
Sure.
I think anyone's better if you diversify your skills.
Well, yeah, I was just curious because I know obviously from like the reverse side, if someone gets into comedy in order to become an actor, like they're just like trying to get scenes so they can get cast and stuff, and like give the comedy up. Comedians get really shitty Because, you know, we're petty people. Like, we're just like, what are you doing our thing for?
Imagine being an actor. Imagine being an actor of many years, and a good one, and a respected one.
Yeah.
You're struggling to get by, doing the odd commercial now and again to so you can pay for your house and your family or whatever. And then you see, you see a Black Mirror episode, and it's got a stand-up comedian in it, and you're just thinking, well, wait a minute.
Yeah.
But to me, I don't see it like that. To me, I see it like that guy's also worked really, really hard to add his craft to get his profile to a point where he's seen as a profile that gives the confidence to the production company to put him in it.
Yeah.
So I kind of see it as both, and I think there's no right way or wrong way.
Well, yeah, I mean,
but I mean, there's nothing I love more than going and watch an amazing play. Because actors. Really, really great actors. But Justin Edwards, he was a comedian and a sketch. He was a sketcher. But what was he in The Consultants? I can't remember the name. I think it was The Consultants. It was the sketch troupe. But he's on Broadway
wow.
He's doing what's it called? Oh, I've lost the name of the play. But he's acting on Broadway.
He's gone across.
He's a great actor.
Yeah, I mean,
he was in The Rev. He plays one of the
right.
I mean, but his skills have come out of doing sketch and stand up and music and stuff.
Well, it's just, I guess it's just interesting because coming to the UK from like kind of like a point of, a low point in LA after like a lot of high points very quickly.
Yeah.
And then I don't know, it's weird because like just as an outside person, like looking at your skill set, like this seems like a really good place for you.
Yeah,
because like there's this country, like the UK, like there's the huge live comedy scene.
Yeah,
there's legitimate theatre. Like Australia doesn't have theatre. I don't know what Canada's like. Australia's got like a couple of productions.
Here
and there.
Toronto's the arts city. It still struggles, I think.
Yeah, like whereas
Canadians, like Canadians would rather go and watch ice hockey.
Of course, we prefer sports.
Well, you're outdoors. You got all that outdoors. Why wouldn't you go and use it?
Yeah, and like the other thing is in Australia, and I assume in Canada, sports are prime time, whereas here sports are in the afternoon.
Yeah,
so
sure.
you in England you could go see a football match live and a theatre show live in the same day, which in Australia would be the weirdest day ever. Like you'd have to plan that years in advance.
If I just developed my skills properly, I could actually play professional football in the afternoon.
Exactly.
Do a bit of dance recital around 6. Do a play and then do some late night comedy.
Yeah, exactly. Close the store.
Jesus,
that's it. You could do like here. You can do that.
I wish I tried harder.
Oh man, I really hope no one ever tries as hard as you again. As an Australian, like just the sheer amount of effort.
Don't you think it's a bit shit though? If I've tried this hard and I'm still doing like little tiny venues and
no,
is that shit? Haven't I failed?
No.
Am I not a complete failure?
No, not that I'm aware of.
All right.
Unless your website's highlighting the good bits.
I guess we are, but I guess the item, but we are though.
Yeah.
But I guess the indirect lesson would be that you got to just be happy with what you're doing. I guess. I mean, it's a bit cliche. But we know. No, I never am. I think you always. I think it's really hard to feel secure, especially in stand up, specifically, but in the arts in general. But stand up specifically, it's really the security has to come from within because there's nothing you can be. It's that's life. That's what people say. Right now in April, shut down in May. I mean, it's one of those things, isn't it? I've constantly wake myself up in the middle of the night, worried that I've done something wrong, or I've insulted the wrong person, or I haven't approached something properly. I mean, I did a casting this week, and I did for a part that I thought I'd be perfect for, and it's a small thing, and it's not even a good pair, blah blah, and I didn't get it, and I thought, well, who knows who else. I'm sure when I see the thing, if I ever see it, I'm not going to go and look for it. I'm sure the person that plays the part will be brilliant. So you stop thinking of it as like that's my part or that's my thing or I should be doing that, and thinking someone's got to do it. It'd be better that someone's doing it than nobody.
Yeah.
And it was a thing that Stuart Lee, we worked together and Stewie baby. And when he directed a Comedians Theatre Company piece called Talk Radio, the Eric Bogosian script, and he said something to me. I don't know if he even remembers saying it or not, but we were just talking, and we just got to the conclusion together. But he said that there's not enough comedians. And I was like, yeah, actually, you're right. Because people come, there's too many comedians. It's like, no, there's not enough. In this country, since I started to now, there's about maybe 40 times as many comedians. I don't know if it's an exaggeration. There was about 800 of us originally, and now there's like thousands. Everyone wants to be a comedian. And you could go, oh, there's too many comedians, but no. And then I've taken that and gone, there's not enough singers, there's not enough dancers, there's not enough comedians, there's not enough artists, there's not enough arts, there's not enough generating new ideas and creative ideas in general, which is why the world is in the state it's in, which is why this incredibly small-minded, fascist, racist thinking is prevalent in the society, because there's not enough comedians.
If only we had more comedians.
If only we need more comedians.
We could open it up a bit.
If you're listening to this and you're not a comedian, do yourself a favor, find an open spot, go and do it.
Go and do it.
Yeah.
You could be Ed Byrne.
Take my job.
Could be Ed Byrne.
Take Ed Byrne's job. He's already got a house.
He's doing fine. Apparently he's got a really nice house. Someone's telling me about the niceness of his house.
He's just put something over his swimming pool. So it's now an indoor swimming pool.
Oh, come on.
I know.
Come on, mate. Pull your head in.
He can't even swim. It's unbelievable.
That's why he put the cover on it so no one can see him.
Exactly.
No one can see him doggy paddling around, being like, shit. Can't make it. Well,
you just made me feel unsuccessful again. Shit.
How did it make you feel unsuccessful
Talking
again?
about Ed Byrne's pool.
Do you want a pool?
No.
Exactly. Fuck him. He's got to clean it. No, he's paying someone to clean it.
Yeah, he's paying. He's got a little Korean man.
He's paying me.
That's not a racist, but it wasn't meant to be.
Phil Nichol, do you want to leave it there? I think this has been...
Sure.
I kind of... No.
What can't you leave it? It's been really long.
It has been really long. I've never had one this long, but I've refused to cut it short.
Okay, well, you never know.
Well, no, it's just that thing where... I don't know.
You could skip this whole podcast and just go and read my website.
No, there's so much more here that I adore. But wait, one last thing, and then I promise to let you go. I know you got things on, but you've been hard to pin down.
Yeah, I'm going today to go and watch Izzy Mant, who is she was a television producer. She's decided that she wanted to start doing stand up. Yeah. And jumped in with both feet, because she's the kind of person she is, to do a one woman show.
Wow.
I helped her with a little bit last year. And I'm going to go and see it at the Hen and Chickens tonight, and then go and do my new material night that I'm running with Sarah Callahan and
the delivery room.
Russell Hicks.
And then next week,
yeah.
I think. Yeah, they're next week. Because you also started Old Rope.
I did start Old Rope.
The very famous Old Rope.
Carrie Marks and I were the originators of Old Rope.
Yeah,
years before
London's most famous new material evening.
It is.
And now you've started another new material evening. The night
after. Well, yes. Well, Old Rope was beneficial for me for quite some time. I'm glad that we did it. I'm glad that I asked a young, brand, fresh-faced comedian called Tiff Stevenson. I asked her to come and help me out, because I mean, this is just me. I'm kind of being arrogant, but it's ahead of the curve, thinking there's not enough diversity. Tiff was very talented, so we thought, well, Tiff started helping me. And then just over time, my career took off, and I became unavailable to do it as often. Tiff took it on as her own show, and it's been very successful. It was successful before, and it is successful now. I hope it continues to be successful. But it has moved away slightly from the original intention. Was a very egalitarian concept that anyone who showed up would get put on.
Sure.
We sometimes had 13, 14 comedians, and the night went on forever, and it was a mess. Tiff has streamlined it slightly, but also it's because it's become popular and successful. It tends to be a certain level of comedian that is allowed to perform there, and I know I hear from people. I was getting emails from people saying, "Oh, well, I can't." Not getting any information back, so I thought, well, the room we're in is smaller. It's on a Tuesday. It's in the tap room. It's any single comedian that I know who's a professional who has written to me has been put on.
Yeah.
So, but you have to be at a certain level of professional. You can't be an open spot.
Yeah.
Although I'm not against putting open spots on, because when I first saw James Acaster when I was doing Old Rope, he was doing an open spot, and I said to him immediately following the gig, "I've got a new material night, and you should come and do it." and he's been doing it ever since.
Yeah.
Whether I can get him to come into the delivery room or not, I don't know.
Who knows?
I didn't even say probably the delivery room.
The delivery room?
Delivery
Things are going
delivery
quite
room.
well.
But but like in the same essence, there's not enough comedians. There's not enough new material nights.
Yeah.
So there's room for old rope, and the fact that it's successful means that I was doing something right.
Yeah.
And so the delivery room, delivery room will hopefully
you cannot say.
Delivery room will hopefully be equally as successful and have the same kind of longevity.
Just as successul, I'm sure. With a new crew of
you can only try. The idea is to
ragtag.
have fun creating comedy.
That's it. All right, we'll leave it there.
Beautiful.
Phil Nichol. Anywhere people can find you? You still got some tour dates for You're Wrong?
Yes. Well, I'm kind of on the international leg of it now. So I'm doing Paris, Amsterdam, doing the Baltics.
Nice. I was just in Estonia.
Do you have Estonian listeners?
I mean, maybe after my red hot gigs there.
I'm playing Tallinn and I'm doing Helsinki, and then I'm going to Southeast Asia.
Nice.
And I'm doing New Zealand. If you have any Kiwi listeners, I'm
Yeah.
doing New Zealand.
We got some Kiwis. We had Jared Christmas on. Did you get some across?
Oh, I love Jared Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm doing Wellington and Auckland. Those are all tour dates. Those are all You're Wrong.
Yeah.
But I'm also I do club dates. I'm back on doing club circuit.
Yeah. The King Crusher in the club.
Yeah.
The unfollowable Phil Nichol.
I don't know about that. But
Avoid him at all costs. If you're a comedian, as an audience member, see it.
don't sit in the front row.
All right, mate. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you, man.
All right, that was my chat with Phil Nichol. Oh man, what a career! I can't believe, he was the next big thing. You know how many next big things there are in the world? I mean, heaps. Probably quite a lot. Probably quite a lot of people are the next big thing for a bit. But auditioning for Spielberg, being on MadTV, being the toast of the town in LA, having the marriage breakdown. It's like a movie. It's like a movie about fame. That was actually his life. And then you talk to the dude, and I don't know if it's just the theater training. I don't know if there's more to it than that. But he's just so humble. He's so kind. He actually cares. And the thing that I found really weird was just the way that he seemed to constantly be like, "Oh, am I a failure?" It's you met the Queen. You auditioned for Spielberg. You were on TV. You conquered the comedy world as part of a comedy punk band, and then did it all again by yourself, even though the game's changed. I think that's one of the things that people underestimate in comedy. It's you can be really good for a bit. Comedy ages terribly. You know how there's classical music? And it's just this is a music from a different time. It features these instruments and it's kind of timeless. Comedy's not like that, man. I know Lenny Bruce is considered the king for kind of starting things in America in a lot of ways, bringing the kind of swearing and the say whatever you want and taking it away from that borscht joke tradition. But if you listen to Lenny Bruce now, it's tough sledding. It is not current. It ages like a motherfucker. And Phil has just kind of rolled with everything. He's ridden the different waves of comedy. And, as I said, if you talk to any UK comedian, they're you do not want to follow Phil Nichol in a club. And then if you go see him in Edinburgh or on his tours, he's doing an 80-minute storytelling show. He has a new show every year, as is the Edinburgh tradition. And then, in addition to that, he's doing all this acting and other stuff, legitimate theater in a way that makes me terrified as an Australian person. But yeah, it was, I think, he's I'm a failure. This is a good career. I'm man, it sounds like a good enough career. If I roll up at his age, I still don't know how old he is, but it's definitely older than I expected. I'll put a photo in there because he looks like Robert Downey Jr. It's real weird. I didn't notice it until he pointed it out. I was like, holy shit, yeah, there's a resemblance. But yeah, if I have a career half as interesting as that, man, I'll be happy. And I think plenty of comedians would say the same. Thanks so much for listening. We'll be back next week with a brand new episode. As always, if you like our guests, please go see them live, because seeing comedy live is what it's all about. I know I can speak from an Australian perspective where we don't really get out there and see live comedy too much. It is much better in the UK. You guys are good at going and seeing stuff, comedy, music, whatever. You guys are out there. But if you have not taken the time to go see a comedian live, definitely do it. It is much better. You can look at the videos. There are heaps of them online of Phil Nichol, but I promise you, there is nothing quite like the energy he puts out when you see him live on stage. Highly recommend doing that. If you want to get around the podcast, as always, we're on iTunes. Give us a review. Give us a little rating. Very much appreciate that. On Apple Podcasts as well. On Spotify. And on Laughable. That's the place where I listen to podcasts on Laughable. It is a great app and a great place to discover new podcasts, as well as check in on your favorites. And beyond that, we just created our podcast Twitter account. We finally did one. I thought I should. I think Twitter is a horrible place, but it is a good thing to catch up on stuff that you're following. So I guess this podcast counts. It is at the Union Jackoff. If you follow that, you can get all the episode updates and probably some details on where people on the podcast will be performing next and stuff like that. Any cool announcements they have. That's it. Jerk-offs, it's a pleasure. Our first 2-part episode. I know this second part was probably more heavy on the comedy than the Union Jack, but I'm sure you will have still found it interesting. All right, catch you next week. It's been a pleasure. Cheers. Bye.